Blessings, everyone. It is Friday, the 28th of March, and I am on my way to the forest, getting deeper into the whole YouTube experience of sharing my moments from the quest. Now, I get a lot of inspiration while driving. And so the reason for this, of course, is because it's part of my mythos. One of the things that I'm teaching in Into the Mythica, after the 20 years of documenting my quest and what this whole, streaming is about, has been the nature of our mythos. It's been the nature of what is the heroic path? How does it relate? What are the principles of the quest that are more constant than their expression? Meaning, what is happening for everyone, not just happening for me and my particular mythos, but what's happening for all of us. And this was part of my creation of Into the Mythica, where the 20-year documentary into witnessing my story and witnessing the characters that arrived on my story that gave me the unified field awareness of how all of our stories were connected, was itself a proof, my investigation into the quest itself, and which would prove to be my means of connecting with the world. So in sharing these videos like this is me being in that mythos, being in I'm an adventurer, I'm on the quest, I'm documenting this, and I've built a whole platform to really show what I'm saying and link everything together beyond a YouTube video. And, as I look at this, there's a thing to, people say, like, well, just get it out there and just do this and just do that. I actually had a lot of blocks in getting out there. Or were they blocks? It just didn't fully expand. And I've gone through a lot of kind of inner energetics over what's going on. And why is this relevant for you? Is that if it's going on for me, it's going on for we. I always say this Into the Mythica. It's like, if any of us are having a spiritual, magical experience of life, then any of us can be having a spiritual, magical experience of life. And that there is a nobility in presenting where we're at and what we're doing. Because ultimately, everyone's on the quest. Your quest may not look like my quest, but it's your quest. Your desires, your goals, your energies, what you're working through, your shadows, your resolutions, they may not look like mine. But the process of that, the principle that we're all moving through that's real. That's like super real. And really seeing that and illuminating that is incredibly helpful, because it allows us to see the map of our myth, the landscape of our legend. It allows us to see what is constant amongst the many flickering tides of our personalities. It says to us, this is what's going on for us, and these are the ways in which we're negotiating it. These are the things that make us all human together, or at least divinity being human, having an experience of being human. And in this way, the recording of the quest has always been my soul's intent. It's always been like, I was super inspired by Uncle Traveling Matt from Fraggle Rock. Like, chase your fears away, worries for another day, especially at these times. But like, it was just the idea that like you had this Fraggle. And this Fraggle was like traveling through the world of humans. And he's like coming up to people's knees. And he sends these postcards back that are from the Fraggle point of view, right? Where he's exploring all these things. And it was like super funny. And I looked at that and I'm like, this is who I am. Even though I do, testing has shown that I actually have a 50-50 split between Fraggle and Tigger DNA. So I'm like a Traggle. But like the idea of being this explorer coming from like a certain very like different perspective, like a fairy perspective, coming through the world has been at the base of like what Into the Mythica has been. And so the idea of, I was super inspired by Journey to the Center of the Earth, by The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and Alan Moore's Promethea, to create a publishing platform in which I could be a journalist of my own mythical journey, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, exploring the real-life layers of the subtle Earth that lay beneath the surface of our consciousness, Journey to the Center of the Earth, and presenting that through comics that really showcase the multimedia world, Promethea. And so as I'm doing this, I've always thought about, like, what is it that makes us human? Like, what is it that's common to all of us, to all of our quests? We are all, and this was really the thing that made Into the Mythica more than just about me and my mythopoetic journey. This was the thing that I really sought to share with the people, with you, because because it's like, it's not enough for someone to have their own mythical journey. Like for me, it's like I went to school for magic, I studied, I built the Mythica, I've been 100% devoted, and this, that, and the other thing. That's great, right? But what gives that to the people? What says to them that, there's other worlds out there. And, there are avatars and pantheons of people who make up those worlds. And there are things that you can do that will commit you to that course of action, which will then fold the quantum possibilities into your own mythical quest. And understanding that, like really understanding that, like the physics of that, like the physics of stories, has always been my inquiry. The reason being is that if you can understand the physics of story as they exist for everyone, the gravity of story, then you can help the people. Because everyone is experiencing the gravity of story in their own unique expression. So in this context, when I talk about the geometries of story, it's all about the geometries of story. It's all about the kind of mathematics of understanding how stories come together and what the basis is for the idea that you are moving through a manifest reality and your perception is going through delirium to discernment, that you are experiencing various like ideas and totems and signatures and all of these things which are part of your unique journey through the creation. And really explaining that is the content itself. And so what I want to speak to in this is commitment. Committing to your quest. In the geometries of story, I have always had inquiry into what is the nature of being human. This is really what we're on about. It's like the physics of being, which is a spiritual thing. It's also the physics of becoming. And I've had question into the most basic premise of things, like what is purpose? What is devotion? What is the nature of the deluge of shadows and subconscious patterns and karmic, ancestral, blah, 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 that defines the mortal condition? What is it that's common to all of us? What are we all doing? Not just, someone who's like committed their life to being a mystical journalist and, has built this whole thing and is now presenting this. Like, that's my story. What's your story? I know people who have lived the life of like being a full-on Avalonian priestess. I know people who have lived their life being a full-on Asgardian avatar. I have known people who have lived their life being the embodiment of the very things that we read about in stories. And the thing that, these are real people, the thing that really differentiated them, that I noticed, that was common to everyone, was that they committed to it. Like, they really committed to it. They said, you know what? This is the path that I'm going to walk, and that's what's going down, and it is. And they did it. They did it for themselves. And this was fabulous, because it is the stepping off on the heroic journey. It's going into it. It's committing to it, committing to the action. It's not half-assed, you know? It represents, it's like commitment to a relationship. And that relationship is with something. If we say it's a relationship with yourself, then we would ask the question, what is the self? Like, what is the self really? And say, what's a commitment to your purpose? We would ask the question, what is your purpose? What is your purpose really? And how do you perceive that purpose? Like, how's that whole thing going down? Right? Those things are the physics of your story. And in that way, they're very much a yoga in their own way. If not a yoga, then the structural quality of yoga that investigates into the nature of the self and its karmic architecture. And in this context, it is the commitment to your story, to being that thing, that I find is the thing itself. So when I talk about the energetic whatever that's going on, going on inside of the self, myself, and I say, okay, why is that happening, and how is that common to everyone else? Everybody's going through that. What's it related to? In their own way. It's related to something. And it's like, what are they not being? Like, why is the easement not there? Or why is there difficulty in something? What is pressuring them from within into something that demands that they divine into who they are, into who their place, their purpose, what their gift is to the world? All of this is part of the geometries of story. These are the physics of the quest. And this is, it's like, it's not that difficult if you really understand it. It's like, either things are easeful in your energetic system and you have access to ideas and things are happening and there's a certain amount of harmony going on, or at least conviction in what you're doing that feels good to you, or there isn't. Like, that's really what it is. And so when we look at these things, what are we really committing to? And I did a video recently, and I just did it yesterday, so I'm going to upload it to YouTube. And it showed me going on the quest, going on the path, and really talking about the path itself, where I felt this, this is what I'm meant to do kind of a thing, because it was me being on the quest. I'm not like the 30-year-old man I was when I started on the quest. It's 20 years later, 24 years later. But it's like I've come back with the gift, and the intention along the way was always to be that mythopoetic journalist. But as I was going into that, as I was committing to that, by creating the publishing platform, by building out the comics, by building out the courses, by doing all of these things, going through the much shadow, right? That it was all a commitment to being that hermetic, maybe not hermetic, but it's the word, right? That magical, mythical journalist, like authentically documenting my way into the Mythica. And this required like absolute commitment from my life. I did. It was like everything was the commitment to that. The jobs, just the lifestyle, when I had the money, then when I didn't have the money and I was on donations and I was like questioning whether or not I was supported by the universe, or the whole thing, right? The negotiation of like this is a shadow, I hate this about myself, wait, no, I love myself, but really I don't. And, like all of that. And it's like, that is common to everyone is going through that. Everyone. And so, but unlike most people, I had an awareness of the Akasha that caused me to question, like, what kind of a loving God would create this? And there's, like, not that other people don't have that question, but these things, these commitments, they lay at the core of our involvement with life. It can take the form, it's a principle. It can take any expression. Remember, in the Mythica, I'm always saying that you have principles and you have expressions. A principle is a gravity. A principle is something that's happening for everybody, right? All the time. An expression is how that principle is unfolding. The principle of devotion, the principle of commitment to the relationship with the universe is the basic thing. The expression is unique to you. So when we look at the qualities in our life that we are negotiating, it really behooves us to ask the question, what am I committing to? What am I not committing to? How am I really involved in my own story? Or am I not involved in my own story at all? You know, is there a larger thing that we need to investigate about ourselves that will give us more access through our commitment? This is the question. Thank you for watching. I'm Peter Fay. Live your myth.